Amen. It's good to be in the Lord's house this morning. Good to see everybody out. If you've got your Bibles, go to the book of 2 Chronicles this morning. And we'll do our best to finish up what the Lord had for us last Sunday morning until He decided to change what He had for us and give us something else. So, last Sunday morning was a sweet time we was able to spend together. I had some folks come out the back and say, man, it's like we were family. It's like we were family. And I said, that's what church is supposed to be like. Hugging on necks, crying on one another, getting some help. And I'm glad when the Lord swings by and He gives us those nice, sweet meetings and those nice times where He dwells with us and He messes with us and shows us what we need to be doing. And it's just hard to ignore Him when He's here in that capacity He was last Sunday morning. But I'm glad that He's met with us. But I do want to go ahead and try to finish what He had for us. We started it Sunday night, and Lord willing, we'll put the bow on it here this morning, and we'll go on and have something else ahead of us. But if you have your Bible, 2 Chronicles chapter number 23, we're going to deal with a character by the name of Joash here. Joash. Now, there's a lot going on with this man here and the things concerning his life. And as a way of introduction, I'm going to try to bring some names up here on the screen. Shane, whenever you're ready, brother. And try to point some things out to you. This is going to get cloudy real quick if we don't have this to help us. I know it's a little bit small for you to see, and I do apologize for that, but there's a lot of names fit on that page. But anyways, Joash here, he's the very bottom left name. And what is fixing to happen is his dad is king of Judah at the time. He's got two names that he goes by. He goes by Jehoshaphat, and then he also goes by Ahaziah there. And both of those are hard for me to say, but I'm doing the best I can on that. But his daddy has gone and he has died there, and he has left his boy Joash to pick up the pieces. And he's a young boy. He's too young to rule. He's too young to know what's going on. And so what happens when his daddy Ahaziah, or Jehoahaz, when he dies there, his grandmother Athaliah. Athaliah, we've been calling her Jezebel Jr. because that's Jezebel's daughter. And she is just as wicked as Jezebel is, if not more so. She is going to go after her son dies and proceed to kill the rest of the ruling family off. Doesn't that sound like a great grandmother? You see, we've got the grandmothers just that time around Christmas where everybody's going to go visit that one grandma they don't see very much. And you're going to make it in the door and she's going to have that red lipstick on and she's going to kiss all over your face and hug on you and give you something that you ain't liked in the last decade, but she thinks it's still your favorite. You know what I'm talking about? That's the type of grandmas we're all used to dealing with. That's not what Jezebel Jr. is. Imagine if instead when grandma visits, instead of bringing you a pot of brownies or something like that, she shows up with a dagger and says, it's your time, boy, and decides to take you out. That's the type of grandmother here that Jezebel Jr. is. She's not one that I would want to be kin to in any shape, form, or fashion. Not even one of them second removed on the mama side type of things. I don't want her nowhere near me because she's wicked. But anyways, when her boy dies and he's no longer king, to keep anybody else from taking control, she has come down and killed the rest of the ruling house there to where there's nobody left but her. And she sets herself up as queen in the land of Judah. She's now queen. We've never had a queen in Judah before until we get to this point. And we weren't supposed to have one until she decided to do it herself. But she's made herself queen, and she is a wicked queen. She is just like her daddy Ahab and her mama Jezebel. She likes Baal. She likes fornication. She likes idol worship. She likes all of these wicked, nasty things that we've got no business being a part of. And that is now what is ruling over the land of Judah. But when she begins to start killing all of the rest of the family so that nobody is left but her, there's one person left. You'll find Jehoahaz, the king that has just died, he's got a sister named Jehoshaphat. Y'all getting all these names? We're going to have a spelling test at the end of class and see how many of y'all can spell these right. I can't say them right, I can't spell them right, so I'm doing the best I can. But Jehoshaphat here, she goes and gets her nephew Joash and hides him to protect him from his wicked grandmother. I'm trying to make it as simple as I can. So Jezebel Jr., the grandmother, is after the grandson, and his aunt steps in and protects him and hides him. Okay, is that as simple as I can get it? She takes Joash, her nephew, and hides him in the house of God. Hides him away from a place that Jezebel Jr. is ever going to go. She says there's no way that she's going to grace the Lord's house with her presence and try to find him here. So we'll hide him in the Lord's house. So they take little Joash and they hide him there in the house of the Lord, and he proceeds to be growing up, and he grows there for about 7 years before we see him again. But I was preaching along the idea of some things that you find in the house of the Lord. And I preached last Sunday night, there's some things that Joash found when he got here. He found safety. Safety from what, brother? He said he found safety from his wicked grandmother, Jezebel Jr., that was trying to kill him. There was people out to get him, so he went and he hid in the house of the Lord, and he was safe there. And I talked about how in today's time there are people that are still after God's people. The Christian is still under fire. There's still those that want us dead. There's still those that want to hurt us. There's still those that want to cause us harm. If you don't believe me, does anybody want to volunteer to go start church in Iran? No hands. Why? Because don't nobody want to go to Iran because they cutting people's heads off over there because you love Jesus. Don't nobody want to go there. I just saw a video the other day that a woman was arrested in Europe because she was praying for somebody on the streets. How about that? There's still a wicked adversary out there after us, and he wants the Christian this day and time to be gone. The Bible doesn't say that the devil, like a roaring lion, is seeking those that he can have a tea party with. He is seeking those he can devour, those that he can get rid of. That's what's going on here with Joash. They are after him to hurt him, to get rid of him. That's what's happening today. But if you go to the house of the Lord, you can find a place of safety. Not only find a place of safety, he found a place of shelter as well. Shelter and safety is the same thing. Not really. He was safe from those that were after him, but he was sheltered from the bad influence. If he had grown up in the house of Jezebel Jr. here, he'd have turned out just like his wicked daddy and turned out like wicked Ahab, and he'd have been smack dab in the middle of Baal worship and everything else. But instead, he grew up in the house of the Lord. He was sheltered from all of that. How many folks in here are glad that they were raised in the church house and sheltered from some things in their life? Miss Lisa, you called it. I was messing with her last night. We went to the little Myrtle parade, and somebody decided that they were going to smoke the devil's lettuce before they came to the parade. And they were upwind of us. We were downwind of them. Because all of a sudden I got the munchies and I was real hungry. I'm just kidding. But I could smell it. And we were sitting there, and me and Miss Joy, we were kind of sitting there trying to figure out what was going on. And we said, somebody has had them a time and smoked a good bit before they got up here because you can smell it. And Miss Lisa said, is that what that is? She didn't know what the smell of it was. And she said this. She said, I've been sheltered. That's a blessing. That's a blessing. I've been sheltered. I wonder how many folks grew up in a house that sheltered them from some things, and they didn't get exposed to all that mess because it wasn't in Mom and Daddy's house. Joash was sheltered in the house of God. He didn't have to experience all of that because he was sheltered from it. Being sheltered is a good thing. It really is. But not only was he in a place of safety, in a place where he was sheltered, but he was in a place of structure as well. You'll find it here this morning when we get to it there. I'm just trying to catch y'all up. But he's in a place of structure as well. Not only was he sheltered from learning the things of the house of Ahab and all the wicked folks in Israel and all that Baal worship and that adultery and all of that wicked mess. Not only was he sheltered from learning that, but while he was in the house of the Lord, they were putting something in him. They were putting something in him. They were teaching him. They were training him. Because who's in the house of the Lord besides the Lord? The priest. He's not around wicked folks. He's around the folks that are supposed to be holy. They're supposed to be righteous. He's supposed to be picking up their habits. He's watching them pray. He's watching the sacrifice. He's watching them do all the things they're supposed to do. He's looking at that and he's learning from that and he's picking up habits. Darden is at the copycat stage. You got to be careful what you say because you'll say it too. So when Daddy's driving down the road trying to head to Branson and somebody cuts him off in Memphis and he called him a moron, and Darden says moron in the back seat, I'm like, oh no. I done taught her a new word. What a great thing to teach my little girl. Sorry. When you're in the lane and it says left lane ends, merge right, and I'm in the right lane, and you're sitting right here and we're sharing a lane and a half, you're tend to get called a moron. I'm sorry. But you need to learn how to get in the lane when you're supposed to get in the lane. But anyways, I've said something that I shouldn't have said, and she picked up on it. She heard it. Old Joash here, if he'd have grown up under Jezebel Jr., guess what he'd have been learning? He'd been learning about Baal. He'd been learning about fornication, which was part of their worship. He'd been learning about killing everybody that didn't agree with that. Do y'all remember when Elijah challenged those prophets of Baal there? And he was telling the Lord to call fire down the altar. Do y'all remember that? He said, let's build 2 altars here. We'll set one up for God. We'll set one up for Baal. And y'all pray, and then I'll pray. And whichever God answers with fire and licks up the sacrifice, that'll be the true and living God. Y'all remember that text? What did the prophets of Baal do when he didn't listen? They were screaming like Comanche Indians down there. They was hooping and they was hollering. They was cutting themselves and doing all kind of wicked mess. What was Joash going to be a part of? That's what he would have grown up with if it had not been for the sheltering and the structure of the house of God in his life. But instead he grew up singing Jesus Loves Me, deep and wide, and the B-I-B-L-E. He grew up in the house of God where he could get some help, where there was some structure and something for him to pull on years down the road. How many people in here, I'm gonna pick on y'all. How many folks in here over the age of 60 remember Sunday school? How about that? Y'all probably remember your Sunday school teacher. You might remember some of the lessons. Or some of y'all was good students and y'all just remember the little snacks they gave you. I remember that too. Mama was my Sunday school teacher when I was itty bitty. And you'd get in there and you got a little tiny cup of water and you got some goldfish. Love them goldfish. I love that little cup of water. She wouldn't give us no Kool-Aid because we'd spill it everywhere. So she gave us water. But I remember there at Sunday school. I remember at VBS and the little songs. Here we do say yes, 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 yes to VBS. Over there it was, we're glad to be here at VBS, Vacation Bible School. Trey probably knows the song too. I start singing it, be like Baby Shark and get stuck in everybody's head and y'all be mad at me. But anyways, we remember those things that we grew up under because we had a structure in the house of God. And not only in the house of God, but in our own homes as well. Where did you learn how to pray? At one point in time, your parents probably said, do you want to pray? Do you want to bless the food? Do you want to pray before you go to bed? And they begin to teach you how to pray. They begin to teach you how to bless the food. They begin to teach you how to do some things around the house, and it pointed you towards God. What was that? It was structure. Not only were they sheltering you from the bad, but they were putting the good into you. They found a place of structure in the house of God. All right, y'all are called up now. There's sermon number 1 for the day. I'm getting overtime pay. We're on sermon number 2 now. Same part though. Not only did they find safety and shelter and structure, but you'll find that they also ran into support here in the house of the Lord. They found support here as well. Think about Joash. Think about him. How would you like to be a young boy and you go home, well, you don't go home, you go to the Lord's house because you can't go home, and you're sleeping in the chamber somewhere with the priest. You just got to bear it with everybody else. You ain't even probably got your own room. You go in there, you lay down, and you're thinking, why am I here? Well, I'm here because all of my cousins just got killed by my grandmother. And that same grandmother wants to kill me. She don't care for me. She don't love me. She's out to get me. Everybody that's staying, because the Lord's house, the king's house is right over here, and then you got the Lord's house over here. They ain't very far apart here. But he's saying right here, it's just right across the way, there's a house slap full of people that want me dead. They hate me and I've done nothing. I'm just a young boy. They're all out to get me. Can you imagine how alone he felt? Can you imagine how awful he felt? Knowing his entire family has been killed here. He's got nobody left except for his aunt and his uncle here, Jehoiada the priest, and Jehoshaphat his aunt. That's all he's got left. Those are the only people there for him. He's all by himself. Everybody's out to get him. He's got to be in a terrible mindset. I've learned some things. Kids are so fragile. They are so fragile. You can say something wrong and it'll hurt their feelings and they will just shut down. I was trying to get Darden in her car seat this morning, and she waited until after I set her in the car seat to inform me that she wanted to do it by herself. I already had the straps on, fisting to buckle her in, and she started bucking against me, saying I want to do it by myself. And when she did, my hand slipped off the buckle and I slapped her in the face. It wasn't on purpose, I promise. I might have thought about it, but I wouldn't have done it. But I accidentally popped her in the side of the face, and she immediately just shut down. She covered her face and she buried it in the side of the little seat that she was sitting in. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Mama got in the vehicle and said, what's wrong with her? I said, I accidentally hit her in the face. And she went to check on her and said, baby, he didn't mean to. Don't look at me. Her feelings was hurt. She was fragile. She was all alone. Can you imagine Jehoash here, how he feels? I don't know what kind of relationship him and Jezebel Jr. had before this. I know they didn't have Christmas back then. I don't know what they had going on. But I don't know if she brought him birthday presents. I don't know if he went to visit and she gave him those little strawberry candies that all grandmothers have. I love them things, by the way. I don't know what she did. I don't know what kind of relationship they had. But one day when he woke up, everybody else is getting killed and everybody is running and screaming, and somebody snatches him up, runs him out of his room, carries him to the house of the Lord and says, don't go nowhere. Go hide. Stay there. Get right there. Can you imagine the fear that he's got? I'm all alone. The entire kingdom is against me. I'm next in line to rule this thing, but I can't because everybody is after me. But then the Bible says, and here we're actually going to read some verses. In verse number 1, chapter 23, verse number 1. And in the 7th year, he's been hiding with them 6 years, okay? Joash has been growing up there in the house of the Lord. He's been safe, he's been sheltered, he's been structured, he's been growing in the Lord here for 6 years. And in the 7th year, Jehoiada, this is his uncle. Jehoiada is the priest. He is also the uncle of Jehoash, married to Jehoshaphat, the sister that hid him there. Jehoiada here strengthened himself and took the captains of hundreds. And he's got a bunch of men here that he's going to go and he's going to get and he's going to gear up to go and help. In verse 2, and they went about in Judah and gathered the Levites out of all the cities of Judah and the chief of the fathers of Israel, and they came to Jerusalem. Pay attention to verse 3. And all the congregation made a covenant with the king in the house of God, and said unto them, behold, the king's son shall reign, as the Lord has said of the sons of David. Can you imagine Jehoash here? He goes to bed. I'm all alone. I'm the only one left in my family. Nobody loves me. They all hate me. The whole kingdom I'm supposed to be ruling is against me. It could be any day now. Every time the door is knocked on at the house of the Lord, I'm afraid that they have found me and I'm fixing to breathe my last breath. That's the mindset that he's in. The next day he gets up and Jehoiada has gone and gathered all these hundreds of people and says, hey, Joash, guess what? They're on your side. Can you imagine what a relief that would be for a young boy that feels like he's got nobody, all of a sudden to look up and see hundreds of folks around him and say, they're with you. And they all pledge themselves to him and say the true king, Joash, is going to go and he is going to rule. They found a lot of support. When I was reading on this, I couldn't help to think back to another individual who thought he was all alone. He might have been under a juniper tree. Anybody remember that fellow's name? Somebody help me. Elijah. I just told you what he did. He went and he called fire down on that altar, and God ate up the altar. He ate up the sacrifice. He ate up the stones. He ate up the water. He did all that. He ate up the dust, it says, when you study it out. He ate it all. It's all gone. It's all burned up. All the prophets of Baal, they tuck tail. They run screaming. They all get killed. It's all done. It's a great victory in the land of Israel that Elijah and the Lord have brought. And then right after that, you find Elijah hiding under a juniper tree saying, Lord, it's only me. I'm the only one left. Just kill me and be done with it. Y'all remember that? I'm the only one, Lord. There's nobody left anymore. It's just me. I'm the only one serving. He throws himself a great big old pity party. And before we get all down on Elijah, when was the last time we had ourselves a nice big pity party? Go home. Well, they just don't understand. I work harder than anybody else does in that place, and they're ungrateful. They don't see it for nothing. I'm the only one trying to do good. The rest of them is just playing around. And they get all the raises. They get all the promotions. They get all the attention. And I just get over here left off to the side, left alone. I'm the only one in the family. I'm the good kid. Everybody else is trying to be bad, whatever the case might be. We all have our little things that we have convinced ourselves that we're the victim on. We all like to play the victim, right? We all like to have our own pity party from time to time. And we want everybody else to feel sorry for us. If something bad goes on and we want to go around and we want to talk about how bad and how terrible it's been. I hadn't told y'all the whole story of our vacation. We get ready to leave Monday morning and Sue's not feeling well. She goes and she gets her shot before we even get in the vehicle to leave. I get in the vehicle to start driving and I'm driving and I'm feeling absolutely terrible. Let you know how terrible I feel. I had to ask Sue to drive so that I could get in the passenger seat for a little while. Sue's a good driver. She really is. But I don't like riding with her. I'm just telling you, it ain't nothing bad about her driving. It's not like she's a wild driver or nothing. I just don't care for her. First time I ever let her drive, well, I don't know if it's the first time, but one that rings a bell. We was on the way to church, and the Lord had changed my mind literally while I was in the shower. So I was in the passenger seat trying to scratch out the next sermon, what He'd have for me to do that morning. I was going to preach and said, "Oh, baby, you got to drive. You got to get over there and drive so I can study." I didn't do no studying, but I did a lot of praying on that trip. I was looking for extra seat belts and everything else, make sure I was okay. But I had to get her to drive because I felt so bad. And we get there and we go and we get some medicine and we start feeling just a little bit better. We went to a place called Fall Creek, to a steakhouse down there. And we come out of on the restaurant and we look and we're in my new truck and it's sitting out there in the parking lot. It's the only one out there. It's that one and there's one other vehicle over to the side. I mean, they're 25, 30 foot apart from one another. Sue said, "Well, you just parked your truck out there in the middle of nothing. It's out there like the Lone Ranger." I said, "Yep." We start putting the kids in the vehicle. I close the door on the door and I turn and look, and the only other vehicle in the parking lot is backing up about to hit the front of my truck. And I'm sitting there like, "Dude, what are you doing? You're fitting to back all over me." Smokes the bumper on my truck. I'm like, dude, we're in an acre-sized parking lot, 2 cars here, and we're the only 2 that hit each other. And then he wants to say, "I didn't see it." My truck is cranked. If you don't know what I drive, I've got the amber lights across the top of it and the bright lights on. I mean, that thing's lit up like a UFO. How do you not see it? But he backs into my truck, and I told Sue, I can't remember who I was telling earlier, but I said, "But I handled it well. I didn't hit nobody. I didn't cuss nobody. I didn't even call him a moron. I did a good job. I behaved very well." I just went and I just talked to them and got their information and give them my information and all that. We're heading back, and Sue was telling her folks about it. And she said, "Have you told your parents?" "No." And she said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, they can't do nothing. They can't do nothing to help it. It's already happened. I can sit here and I can mope on it and I can complain about it and I could be upset and I could have spent that whole drive on the way home, that whole 6.5 hour drive, sitting there moping and complaining about how the truck's not even got 10,000 miles on it. Now it's got a dent in the bumper. I can sit here and mope and complain about every single bit of that. But guess what that does for everybody involved? Not a thing. It does absolutely nothing. So instead, what I believe I would do is I spent the last day of our vacation, have a big time with my family. Finally glad my throat wasn't hurting no more. They gave me some big old horse pill steroids, and I thought about taking the whole bottle at once, see if it knocked it out quicker. But I was just happy that I wasn't feeling bad no more. The point is simply this. We can sit here and we can have ourselves a pity party and feel like nobody understands, nobody gets what we're going through. My circumstances is worse than everybody else's because everybody wants to compare their battle scars, it seems like. "Oh, you're $1,000 in debt. Well, I'm $3,000 in debt. Oh, you don't feel good. Well, I feel worse than you do." You ever seen kids do that? Kids will compare things like that. They'll be like, "Well, my brother's bigger than you. Well, my daddy's bigger than your brother. Well, my granddaddy can whip your daddy." Y'all remember all that stuff y'all did as a little kid? That's the way they were. That's the way the kids did things, and that's how we are when we're playing the victim. We all want to be worse off than everybody else. We all want to walk around defeated like we're living a life that is ruined, that is awful. If anybody's got the ability to play the victim, it's Joash. He literally is the victim. Anybody in here got a bounty out on them, wait for somebody to come and kill them every night? No. Joash did. Joash had people after him. And he's a young boy here. And he's got somebody after him. He has every reason in the book to play the victim and have the pity party and all of that stuff. But he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. And all of a sudden, when he's sitting there and he's pity partying himself to death like Elijah on the juniper tree, the Lord does the same thing for him that He did for Elijah. Y'all remember when Elijah came by, there's an earthquake, there's a fire, there's a wind, there's all this stuff, and then there's what? A still small voice. Y'all remember that text? And God wasn't in all that other stuff, but He was in the still small voice. And He reminded Elijah of a little something called a remnant. Y'all remember that word? A remnant. Now, if memory serves, I think it was 7,000 that he had saved. saved himself 7,000 other people besides Elijah that were going around and were serving God. Elijah's sitting there thinking, I'm the only one. I'm all by myself. All by myself. Anyway, he thinks he's all by himself. He's all alone and nobody cares and nobody wants to help him. He's got nothing for him. He's all a victim. He's all covered up in pity. It's all ruined. The Lord says, no, you're not. You're not alone. There's a remnant. There's a remnant then. There was a remnant in Joash's day. He wakes up and Jehoiada comes in all happy and says, guess what I got for you, boy? I got you some supporters. I got you some folks that don't want to see a wicked Jezebel on the throne. They want to see you on the throne. They're not after you to kill you. No, they want you to rule. They want to follow you. Why did I tell you something this morning, child of God? You might look around. You might think I'm by myself. Nobody cares. Nobody's praying. Nobody loves me. I'm the only one trying to serve God. I'm the only one trying to do right. I just want you to know, look around this morning and realize that you're in the remnant. You're not the only one. You're not all by yourself. There's a lot of supporters out there that you might not have realized were there. Prove it, Brother Easton. I'm glad you invited me to do that because I was geared up ready for it. Anybody remember what happened the week or so after Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Man, there was people coming out of the woodworks professing Christ that I didn't even know who Jesus was. There was people all over Facebook. There was famous celebrities. There's people all over. I can't remember what the fellow's name was, but he just went. He's a rookie player in the NFL, and they had to do a talent show to be a part of their team. You know what he did his talent on? He gave a devotion. How about that? The rest of them was up there singing "Sweet Child of Mine" or something like that. What did he do? He studied on what the Lord would have him to do, and he stood up and he gave a devotion to the entire team. He wanted to stand for Christ. People have come out of the woodwork and are now professing Christ openly that you never would have to look at and thought that they knew anything about him. That might not all be true. That's fair enough. But they're talking about him. There's so many more now talking. Anybody remember what happened when Saul and all his army was camped up on one side of the valley of Elah, and then the Philistines were on the other side, and Goliath would come down there into the valley, and he was hollering, and he was denying the Lord God of heaven, and he was challenging them and saying, send me somebody to fight. Nobody would go and fight. Everybody was scared to death. The Bible says that they were trembling, they were terrified, they were scared, and all of a sudden David steps up and says, I'll go and I'll do it, and as soon as he sends that rock, hits Goliath in the forehead, and as soon as he hits the ground, what's the Bible says happened? The entire army of Israel charged. Go back and read it if you don't believe me. As soon as Goliath hit the ground and somebody stood up and said, I'm going to trust God and let the Lord bring the victory in this, everybody else got their courage and they stepped to the fight. What happens here? Nobody wants to help Joash. He's all by himself. He thinks he's all alone. He thinks he's scared. He thinks that he's the last one here. And all of a sudden, Jehoiada, he begins to go around and start saying, hey, anybody else tired of Jezebel Jr.? Anybody else want to see the true king rule? If only one of them was still left. And he goes around and he gets all that support. And everybody comes into that place. And they say, Joash, we want you. We want to go and we want to serve with you. It's amazing what happens when one person jumps up and decides to go after God. It's like a lot of other people are sitting here wanting to go, but they ain't got a clue how to go. They just need somebody to follow. They need somebody to get after. Charlie Kirk led the way on a lot of things. Charlie Kirk, I don't know of anybody else in the United States of America that I can confidently say was going to get the martyr's crown when he made it to heaven. In recent history, in the continental United States, I understand missionaries overseas and things of that nature. Somebody that was killed for their faith to receive the martyr crown. That was Charlie Kirk. And after that, he's paved the way for people all over the nation to jump up and go and try to follow what he started and lead people to Christ. What did it take? It took somebody going. He had a lot of support. He found some support when he decided it was time to go. Not only did he find some support, you guys keep on going down. You'll find, let me go to verse number 9 here for sake of time. Moreover, Jehoiada, the priest, delivered to the captains of hundreds. These are all the people that came to support Joash, okay? He delivers unto them spears and bucklers and shields that had been King David's, which were in the house of God. Ain't that something? They came to fight for Joash, and they ain't got nothing to fight with. But Jehoiada says, I got you covered. Y'all come on. He carries them into the Lord's house, into the house of God. What a wonderful place to find spears and shields, by the way. He carries them into the house of God, says, y'all come over here to this closet right here, I got you something. He opens the door up, and he says, come get you one of these. And he hands them spear after spear after spear. By the way, it's hundreds of them. Another verse here in a minute says that all the people stood around about with their weapons in their hands. They all got them. It wasn't just a few of them. But he's handing those spears out. He's handing those shields out. He's giving them what they need to be able to go and to fight and to serve Joash. But I got to think about that spear. And when I first read this text, I was like, man, I wish it was a sword. Because if it was a sword, I could carry you to Ephesians chapter 6 and say the sword of the Lord, which is the word of God. And I could preach on using our Bible to serve. I was like, oh, that would preach so good. That'd be just a great sermon if it was just that sword instead of spear. But then I got studying on spear. And that spear is pretty cool too. You know, the spear in the Word of God is a picture of divine intervention. Divine intervention. Let me give you some verses here. Let me find them. In Joshua 8:18, you'll find that Joshua and the children of Israel, they've gone and they've fought against Ai. They've gotten beat by Ai. Like 38, 37 people have been killed. They've gone back with their tail tucked and they're saying, Lord, why did this happen? Why did this happen to us? Why did we lose? And eventually the Lord sends them back. Long story. But he sends them back. And when he goes to send them back here in Joshua 8:18, the Lord says unto Joshua, stretch out the spear that is in thy hand toward Ai. For I will give into thy hand, into thy hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that he had in his hand toward the city. It was a symbol of what God was about to do. God was about to intervene in a divine way for them to win the battle against Ai. But it goes more than that. In 1 Samuel 17, then said David to the Philistine, thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. And go down to verse 47, and all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you it into our hands. I always wondered why he had a spear and a sword. Y'all remember the story of Goliath? Anybody tell me how big a sword was? No, you can't because it doesn't tell you. But it does tell you how big that spear is, doesn't it? It tells you how big. It's a beam, a weaver's beam. It tells you how heavy the head of that spear is. It tells you a lot about that spear. But then it goes on, and that's just another time where the spear is highlighted, but the Lord has to intervene there. You go on down a little bit longer, and you'll find in 1 Samuel 26, when they come unto Saul there when he's asleep, and David and his men show up on him, and they're like, hey, the Lord has delivered Saul into your hand, David. Kill him, pin him to the ground. You'll find that there's something stuck in the ground next to Saul. Guess what it was? A spear. The spear. And instead of touching and killing God's anointed, David took the spear and ran out. And then he called unto Saul, 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 wake up. And when Saul woke up, he says, looky, looky what I've got, Saul. I've got your spear. I could have pinned you to the ground with it. I could have killed you with it. But instead, the Lord intervened, and I wasn't going to touch the Lord's anointed, but I wanted to prove to you that I could. So here's the spear. It's a place where God intervened. It goes on some more. You'll find some of his mighty men. 2 Samuel 23. It talks about some of the mighty men. In particular, Adino. He lifted up his spear against 800 who he slew at one time. Don't sit there and tell me God wasn't involved in that. One man, one spear, he beat 800. Sounds like God intervened in a divine way. 23:18. Another mighty man stands up. He lifts up his spear against 300 and slew them at one time. Wow. Wow. But let me tell you another place the spear is mentioned. There's one more place that I want to point out. Word spear was used quite a bit in the Old Testament. Anybody want to take a guess how many times it's used in the New Testament? One time. Anybody want to take a guess where it's at the cross. John 19:34. But one of the soldiers with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water. What's going on there at the cross? I'll tell you what's going on when he died on the cross. It's called divine intervention. It's called when God sent his darling son to die for a bunch of wretched sinners like us, that instead of dying and going to hell, he would intervene in our lives that we might instead go to heaven with him. I sure am glad he intervened. I sure am glad that he saw fit to send his son to die for us. That spear is pretty cool. Pretty neat to look at all the places that God stepped in and he gave them divine intervention. He got support. He got the spears. You'll find also that he gave them shields as well. It says he gave them shields. He gave them bucklers. The buckler's another type of shield, by the way. Buckler's a long shield, okay? It's one that's supposed to go all the way down. You can imagine something like infantry when they would make like the shield walls, the great big old long shields, and they'd all lock them together and sit behind them. That's kind of like what the buckler shield was. Regular shield was just a little old smaller shield, all right? But he's given them two types of shields. What's the Bible have to say about shields? This one I can carry to Ephesians. Ephesians 6, I'll read it to you. You ain't got to go all the way over there. Ephesians chapter number 6. Chapter 6, verse 16. Above all, he's just listed all these different pieces of armor, okay? He's just told us all about that. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. Brother Easton, what's the point of having a shield if I've got all this armor? I could put you in a suit of armor. I could stand at the back doors with a bow. And I give you a shield too. How many of y'all are going to sit there and let that arrow bounce off the breastplate instead of just hitting it with the shield? Anybody with common sense is going to say, no, that's not me. Why'd you have the shield too? Because that armor had gaps. The armor had gaps. First time I ever preached on Ephesians chapter 6, I preached about ninjas. Ninjas in history, they came about to fight a certain group of people. They came to fight the samurais. Samurais were so deadly and so formidable because they had armor that didn't have very many gaps to it. But what did the ninja do? The ninja came up with ways to get around that armor. In particular, the ninja took glass and they would grind it up into a powder and they would go and they would throw it into their eyes. Because why? Couldn't protect the eyes. Can't put armor over the eyes because then you can't see. There was gaps in the armor. I don't care how good of a Christian you are. I don't care how tight your armor is. I don't care how good your prayer life is. I don't care how much you read your Bible. There's been a time in your life where the devil has found a gap to get into your life. He has found a place. He has found a way. He has found a sore subject. He's found a bad day. He's found a bill that's over there. He's found something that has got into your life, and he has wreaked havoc on you because it came through a small gap somewhere. How you know that, Brother Easton? Because I've been one of those that has had to pray that prayer. Lord, I thought I was doing good. I was praying. I was studying. I was witnessing. I thought I was living pretty good. But the devil is still hitting. He's still finding a gap. He's still finding a way in. You know what's beautiful about a shield? If I see the fiery dart coming from that way, I can put the shield here. If it's coming that way, I can put the shield over here. If it's coming low, I can put the shield down here. If it's coming high, I put the shield up here. The shield's not locked on. I can put it where it needs to be. When I see the attack coming, I can prepare for it. What kind of shield was it? It was the shield of what? Faith. Faith. You know what that means? It means when I see something coming my way, I ought to go ahead and prep my faith in my shield and get ready when it comes. Think it not strange, the fiery trial. Y'all remember that verse? Think it not strange. What's he saying there? He's saying don't be surprised when a trial finds its way into your life because it's a-coming. It's on its way. And we know that troubles are coming. We know that troublesome times are here. We know all of these things. We know the end times are going to be bad. It's going to be an awful time to live. We understand how bad it's going to get. But we can see things coming our way, and instead of doing what most Christians do and just taking our shield and throwing it down and saying, just getting ready for it, what you look like. We used to play, when we were growing up, we'd play a game called Sting Ping. I don't know if y'all ever played this before. We had a ping pong table at Mom and Daddy's house, And we would mess around at night, and we would play sting ping, and you'd play a volley of ping pong. And if I scored, just say me and Trey were playing, and I scored on Trey, he had to turn around and face the wall and pull his shirt up, and I got to take the ball and spike it into his back. Leave a big old welt. Look like you got ringworms. But we'd play that. You'd play the 3 welts. And then every once in a while you get that one joker that as soon as you turn around, he'd sneak halfway up the table and he'd just get you point blank. But we'd play sting ping. And it was psychological. It was. You know that ball's about to come, it's about to hit you in the back, and you're sitting there, you're going, and every time somebody moves, you're like, you're just waiting for it to happen. You're waiting for it to hit. There's a lot of Christians nowadays that are sitting there in their faith, shaking, just waiting for something to go wrong. Waiting for it to go bad. Waiting for it to go bad and the rubber to hit the road and everything to just fall apart. They're waiting for it to get real. They're waiting for something to fall apart in their life when instead they ought to be praying. They ought to be building their faith. They ought to be getting ready. Y'all remember those old medieval movies? I know we've all seen them. And they get the archers and everybody ready, aim, and they sit there and hold forever, and I'm thinking, y'all are dumb. You could have done shot 20 times by now. Just let them shoot. But they're all sitting there. They want that one big volley. Y'all know what I'm talking about? And they let it go. And when the arrows are flying down, everybody on the other side, you'll hear somebody go, shields! And everybody go, whoop! And all the arrows will bounce off the shields. They won't be hardly nobody hit. You know what I'm talking about? Makes sense, right? When they see the attack coming, they don't sit there and just say, and just wait for it to hit. No. They wait until the command comes, said, put your shield up and get ready. The Bible is telling us that there are fiery darts coming our way from the devil. He is after us to attack us. He's going to send darts after us, but he's given us a shield of faith if we'll just pray and we'll build that faith and we'll use it. But instead, when it comes our way, we want to cry out and complain to God and say, oh, poor pitiful me, Lord, why would you let this happen to me? Why would you let that fiery dart come and hit me? Why would you let something like this happen to little old me? I've done so good. And I wonder how many times the Lord just wants to say, your shield was laying on the ground right next to you. Why didn't you use it? Your faith was right there. Your faith was right there. Why wasn't you praying? Why wasn't you building your faith? Why wasn't you practicing with your faith muscle? Because faith is a muscle, by the way. It doesn't grow unless you use it. You got to work out your faith muscle, put a little faith in God, and it'll grow and grow and grow and grow, and then one day you'll be a faith warrior. But anyways, it says your shield is right there. You ain't ever praying about nothing. When something hits your life, when the devil makes contact, you don't sit there and say, oh, Lord, help me. Instead, you want to go around and talk to everybody else about how God let something happen to poor, pitiful little old you. I'm sure y'all have all seen that too. Something bad happens to somebody, and it's like they're on a race against the clock to see how many people they can tell in 10 minutes. Oh, did you hear what happened? Oh, did you hear what happened? Oh, did you hear what happened? That's the whole reason I told y'all about me and Sue and my truck on vacation, because everybody that asks how our trip is, I don't want to tell the story 100 times. How's your trip? It's pretty good. Once we got over strep throat and I got over the guy running over my truck, pretty good. Had a good trip. Sue's mama called us. We were telling her we were sick. I can't remember if I had backed over my truck yet or not. But she called us and said, did y'all pray before y'all went on this trip? Not hard enough, apparently. We should have prayed a little bit harder. But anyways, I'm just trying to say this. In the house of the Lord, he found some support. You got a bunch of support in this room. You got a bunch of folks that are praying for you. You got a bunch of folks that love on you. You got a bunch of folks that want to help you. If you're struggling, you're going through something, grab one of them. Let them pray with you at the altar. Grab me. Let me pray with you. There's probably better prayers in here, but I'll pray with you. I don't care. I'll do whatever I can to help you on that. If you need some help, let somebody know you need some help. You'd be shocked how many people are going through the exact same thing that you are. I'll never forget at Locust Grove, there's a man stood up in the men's Sunday school class. And he told a lot of the men in the church his personal struggles that he was having. And there were some big ones. And there were some embarrassing ones. And you would not believe how many men stood up and hugged his neck and said, I've been there too. I've been through that too. I've struggled with it too. Let me tell you what helped me. Let me help you be accountable and you keep me accountable. You know what that's called? That's called iron sharpening iron. I think there's a verse about that, ain't there? Iron sharpeneth iron. You'd be surprised how many people are going through the exact same thing that you are. But nobody knows you need help because you won't let anybody know you need help. We can't help you if you don't let us know. There's a bunch of support in this room. They gave them some spears. Time the Lord has stepped in and intervened in a divine way. I don't think he can do anything that's not in a divine way. But anyways, he stepped in a divine way and he's changed some things. He's intervened. That's what he's done here in the life of Joash. They're going to take those spears and they're going to get rid of Jezebel Jr. They're going to take her out of the house of the Lord. They're going to kill her here in a few minutes. You go read the rest of that chapter. They're going to get rid of her and they're going to put old Joash up. They're going to set him up as king. All because of some spears. And then some shields there that they were able to use to protect themselves. And you've got the shield of faith as well. Last thing tonight, and I'm done, ladies. Y'all go ahead and head to the piano. I'll be quick. Last thing tonight. In the house of the Lord, he found safety. He found shelter. He's found structure. He's found support. He has found shields and spears. And lastly, he's found a start. A start. What's going on in the kingdom right now, Brother Easton? Jezebel Jr. is leading them in the worship of Baal. Matter of fact, Baal has his own house of worship in Jerusalem at the time. Right here where all this is going on. Where it's supposed to be God's house. Where Solomon's temple is. Where everything is supposed to be pointing towards God. We have a house for Baal. Not only a house for Baal, they have a high priest for Baal. You'll find him in this chapter. Keep on reading. He gets killed too, by the way. Spoiler. Baal's high priest is there. Kingdom's not in a good place. But then all of a sudden, because Jehoiada goes around and he finds some people that want to go and to serve Joash. They want to serve the true and living God. And they want to serve the true king. Because they want to do what's right. And they're not too scared to hide anymore. But instead we'll take the spear and we'll take the shield. And they'll go and they'll stand forth and let everybody see that they're not ashamed of it. That they're not cowardly. That they've got a spine. They've got the guts to stand up and be brave in the face of evil and wickedness. And say, I'm going to stand with God. I'm going to stand with rights. Because what all these people did and what all these men did, you'll find out that when they take old wicked Jezebel Jr. out and they get rid of her and they tear down the altar of Baal and tear down the house of Baal and they get rid of the priest of Baal, that the Bible says that all the people rejoiced. How about that? All the people of the land rejoiced. Verse 21. After all this happened, what happened? It was a start. It was a start to a change in the kingdom. All because one man by the name of Jehoiada went and found some more people that thought like him, that wanted to be on God's side of things, and then they weren't ashamed to do it publicly. And then everybody else saw that, and they decided, you know what? I want to be a part of it too. It was a start. Brayson, what are we trying to do? We're trying to change the world. We're trying to see a lost and dying world that's headed to hell come into the church house and meet somebody named Jesus. Be saved and spend eternity in heaven instead. That's what we want, is it not? Don't we want to see people not go to hell, but instead go to heaven? We're trying to incite change. What's it going to take, church? It's going to take a start. What's going to make it start? A few people that get on board and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it publicly. And I'm going to stick with God. I'm going to go with Him. And I don't care what anybody else says. If this little revolt had not worked out right, guess what happened to all these followers of Joash? They all would have been gone. They didn't care. By the way, it's talking about things that start stuff up. All the men that started this great country, what would have happened to them if they'd have been caught? They'd have been executed for treason too. I sure am glad that they didn't stop, so that we might live in the country that we have now. It's going to take a start, and it might not be easy all the time, but I'm glad in the house of the Lord I've got friends that will help me. I'm glad that I've got shields. I'm glad that I've got a spear. I'm glad that I've got Him. And He'll intervene and He'll help us. Let's stand this morning as they play.